Welcome to the AVNI Interviews. We are your hosts, Eric Bork and Mikey Taylor.
What up?
We're the co-founders of AVNI, an intelligence brand for influencers and entrepreneurs. Here on the AVNI Interviews, we interview people who are doing the work they want and the lifestyle they love. You can learn more at avniintelligence.com or give us a follow on social at AVNI Intelligence. Our guest today was getting pushed into pools as a young Grom on reality TV when he decided he wanted to pursue a career as an entrepreneur. His name is Chris Pfaff Drama. He was interviewed by Forbes in 2015, where they force you to disclose how well or not well your company's doing. And in his case, it was doing very well at $31 million. And that's a great product and brand. We're stoked to have you on.
Thank you guys, man. This is incredible.
That is such a good start.
It's an incredible start. Are you kidding?
I mean, you're killing it.
I mean, even referencing like the pool pushing, like it sort of humbled me. Then it built me up. Then it made me laugh. It was very dynamic.
Well, I mean, dude, this is a cool one because I've known you.
Yeah.
Dude, I've known you since you were, I think, in Ohio.
For sure. Probably,
And then you guys
probably
were the
came
Ohio
to the opening
boys.
of the skate plaza in
I did.
Kettering, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, there's Mikey.
Yeah. So I've known Chris when he was Chris. Drama came after.
Drama was invented much later.
Yeah, and you guys had a house right down the street,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Was it the Witsit house? What was the?
Witsit. Yeah, it was on Witsit and Vineland.
Yeah, so right down the street.
Yeah, and that was like all the Ohio homies. That was my brother and the three kids that we grew up skateboarding with every day. That was like our Ohio skate house transferred to LA.
Yeah,
So
I
that thing,
remember.
I mean, that might as well have been like a mansion.
I remember. What's funny is that you guys just showed up, and so
Yeah.
we were just like, whatever. We went and skated with you.
Yep.
But I don't think even back then I even asked why or how you came out.
Yep. So let me do this. Is this a good time to get my Gary Vee on here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Switch
let's
it up.
go.
Okay. So are we gonna we're just gonna flow
We're
through
just
this?
going to
Let's
go
do
with
this.
it.
Okay,
So
great. So here's what we're doing.
explain what you're doing, yeah.
Will you love me up real quick? As you can see, I'm just kind of directing and I'm just kind of
I like it,
pointing.
dude.
I'm
I love
pointing
it.
a lot.
I love it.
And this is very 2018. I want lavs. I want my own footage. So I'm trying, as you guys, as we all are, to create as much content as humanly possible. And so this is Tyler, who just walked in. He was
What
a
up,
little late.
Tyler?
There was a lot of traffic.
Tyler.
And I've just been filming literally everything I do, and it feels really weird. And I don't love it, but I'm getting used to it. And so what I'm doing is he's just going to film this interview while we're doing it. I'm hoping to maybe have 2 or 3 15-second moments where I sound really smart.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take them, chop them up,
There
make it
you
look like
go.
I'm a big thought leader, and I'm going to put them on my Instagram page.
There
I
you
love
go.
it, dude.
Yeah.
We'll
I
send
love
you a
it.
couple as well.
I love it.
Yeah, please.
So for people listening or watching, where can they watch what you're
Is this
recording?
YouTube now? Or is this
will
social
be-
channels?
Actually, this main thing will be Instagram, right? All my fans are on Instagram. And so, Tyler. Sorry, guys. Guys, I'm being selfish. Okay, so this will be on Instagram.
Because the majority of my followers are on Instagram, the majority of the engaged ones. So
Yeah.
what I've learned is if you cut up the little clips, make it real quick and easy to watch, I put them on there and it does the best.
Great.
So even with my podcast, I still take moments and chop them up from the podcast and put them on Instagram. And that actually combined will get more listens than an hour and a half long podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just trying to hit every platform possible, you know?
Yeah.
So it's you doing your Instagram, or do you have a team?
This is,
Are you? How deep are you? Because I'm like, I feel like I'm in the trenches, man.
Oh, I'm in the trenches. But here's what's funny is people always ask me that. And for the last 10 years, I've been able to say it's me 100% doing my Instagram. Just last weekend, I finally put these guys on a retainer that are supposed to pump up my following and my engagement. So I have no idea. I don't really believe in it, but I want to make sure that I'm not being an old, bitter guy.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I'm trying everything. So I'm going to try these guys, see if it works. What they're supposed to do is help me create the right type of content.
So that it engages.
They even help me with like the little captions and stuff because I'm not good at like, I don't want to, if I'm posting a photo, I don't want to say like, man, I remember when I dreamed for this and now I have it. Comment below what your dream is, right? It sucks.
Well, yeah, we're skaters, man. We all that shit will always be whack.
That's
right?
the problem.
But it works.
But it works. So now I'm like, you guys do it. I won't touch it, whatever. So I'm responding and engaging, but I'm letting them kind of steer the ship on what these kids want. You know what I mean? So. Okay, so let me also tell another story. I'm sorry to hijack this. I just want to tell a quick story. I did grow up skating my whole life, was a massive skate fan, moved to LA because LA was like the skate capital of the world, which we'll get into my answer. obviously, I remember like watching P-Rod and watching your guys' early videos when I was young. I remember meeting you at the skate plaza, which was really cool to me. Like, obviously, I looked up to you guys and to all the pro skaters and whatever. And then about 2 weeks ago, we don't talk very often.
No.
So about 2 weeks ago, my phone rang. And it said Mikey Taylor on it. And I was like, what the hell could Mikey possibly want? And I'm going to be honest, I'm a pretty antisocial dude. And a lot of times I ignore phone calls and pretend like I was busy and wait for them to text me. But it's Mikey. So obviously I'm not going to do that. And so I answer the phone and Mikey just says, hey, man, just wanted to check in, see how you were doing and let you know that I think you're doing a great job with everything. And everything you're doing is really positive and in line with what you should be doing. And that was one of the few, you know, there's only a handful of people that you ever looked, you know, look up to in that way, and sort of to have that cosign from someone that I look up to so much really meant a lot. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. And I meant it. I mean, just you have no seeing reason it, you know, and it's funny because I've watched this, I've known you, and I've watched this kind of transformation happen kind of outside looking in.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. You know, I think a lot of people get stuck in the shadows or especially in reality TV, and you kind of, you know, you came in as Rob's cousin, right?
Yeah.
And now to me, what I see you doing, I don't even think of Rob.
Yeah.
Like it's so, like you're so standing on your own, and it looks like this is just you now.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I think you're doing a great job, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah, and I don't, not to, you know, that's why that stuff means so much to me, because there was a big gap in time when obviously you feel that, right? Like coming up under someone. I mean, I grew up with an older brother who was better than me at skating, better than me at school, better than me at everything, right? So it gave me a lot of my drive, but I never felt like I could shine. Then I moved to LA, and now I have a cousin that I'm coming up under who is a absolute superstar, one of the most hilarious, smartest guys on the planet, right? So I'm like, great. Now I got to overcome this.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it gave me a lot of my drive, but to finally kind of be in a place where it is, you know, separate, but obviously I owe those guys a lot, but is really cool. And for someone who has known me that long to say good work means a lot. So thank you.
And let me jump in real quick and just, I meant to mention this in the intro, but there's a lot of guys out there doing podcasts on the motivational entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah.
You're really natural on camera.
Thank
Is that
you.
from being in TV so long, or, I mean, it's good to see like someone with a brand and influence doing the entrepreneur I don't know if I'd say motivational, but
thank you.
What would you call it?
Yeah, I don't want, I try to stay away.
You try to
from
waste
it.
yeah.
This is way I see it. At the core of who I am as a human being, because I went through a phase a couple of years ago where I tried to figure that out, right? I'm not a clothing designer. I'm not a skateboarder. I'm not a pro skateboarder as much as I would have liked to have been. Not an athlete. Really what I am is a kid with a high school education that moved to LA to just go for it, sorted some stuff out and made it happen. The way that I made it happen was I went out of my comfort zone, moved into a new area, was quiet and soaked up as much information as I possibly could. And then when it was time for me to take advantage of an opportunity, I did wholeheartedly, right, unapologetically. And so what I'm trying to do now in my life is say, okay, well, how can I give that gift back? I mean, it changed my life. I moved out here to hopefully live in a studio apartment with my brother, drink beers all day, and work at Valsurf. Like, that was my dream. You know, that was, Mikey just headbutted the microphone.
You caught me like being a fan, listening to the story.
You're so into it, he just got headbutted.
Dude.
So that's what's crazy. And the reality is, like, just being honest, I'm able to live a life now that I never would have expected that I ever would be able to. So I think that it's my job not to ride around on my high horse and say, look at me, I'm cooler than you. It's really my job to give other people that same feeling or opportunity or chance, right? So what I'm doing now is, apart from also running my business, I'm trying to learn. My podcast is my place where I learn. So I don't use that to talk about how cool I am or how much I know. I sit, I be quiet, and I soak up information the same way I did for years. But I want everyone to learn with me. So now by subscribing, by listening to my thing, you can learn the same way that I was learning. That's what gets you. I mean, you know those conversations when you leave and you're like, shit, man, I'm going to take over the world on that drive home, right? And so that's what I do there. And then really what my social media and my YouTube and all of these things should be is you just watching me go through it. Even this interview should be my honest opinion from a guy that's going through it. Like, I'm not smarter than anyone here. I'm not more special than anyone here or anyone listening. I'm just actively applying all the information that I have. And so you can watch me and we can apply it together. I don't want to tell you, like, get up off your ass. You can be somebody. Do it, do it, do it. Like, that's not me, man. Like, if you want to be lazy and eat potato chips, I do not care at all. I do too. But I hope that just you can look at me more as like a friend that's just out here hustling, and hopefully by watching my stuff, you're like, damn, I want to try that, or you know what I mean?
Dude, totally. And I think there's you say it so humbly, and there's such a realness to it that I'm a Gary Vee fan, but sometimes you're like, this is overload, dog. Like, you're not doing this shit by yourself. You have a team of 1,000. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like, what you're saying is it relates a lot to me as a person. Yeah. I'm a big believer of like being the dumbest one in the room and just listening. Yeah,
you gotta be.
I love it though, dude. I love it. I told you 2 weeks ago. I love it, man.
That's so cool. Yeah, I and even me, like, I'm a fan of Gary Vee too. I love it. But it's just not me. Yeah. I think where a lot of people go wrong too is they see someone that they like and they say, well, I'm going to just do that. And it's just so inauthentic, and you know that that's not you. I know that's not me. That's not how I am with my friends. That's just not how I am. But what I am is a very like curious dude who's not afraid to fail or look like an idiot. I did that on TV for years, right? What can I do that's embarrassing? I've already done it. Yeah. So like, I'm just going to go for it in pursuit of this better life, and hopefully we can all sort of do it together. But I went off on a tangent. It's the bad part about interviewing someone who has a podcast. The answer to your original question is...
Yeah, so let's go back and where it started. So like, let's go before you found out who you are now, right? You're a kid, you're living in Ohio, you want to come to LA. How'd you get here? Parents help you? Yeah, so the story is this. I grew up skateboarding from age, I think, 10. And so growing up, like, we knew that our cousin, Rob, was a professional skateboarder, but... he's 13 years older than I am, and he moved to LA when he was 16, so when I was 3. So we didn't know him growing up at all. We just knew that we had this cool cousin somewhere out in the world that did something cool. So that definitely influenced us of why me and my brother started skateboarding, but it was just kind of from afar. You know, I think it was sort of subconscious. We just bought a skateboard and started doing it. So skateboarding was my life. It's all we did. You guys obviously know that story very well. That's all you do 24/7. No sports, no nothing. Sports are whack. Everything's whack. Skateboarding is it. So I knew from as early as I can remember that the moment I graduated high school, I was moving to LA. There wasn't a question about that. I didn't take my SATs or my ACTs because why would I? I'm moving straight to LA, right? So I would say around like 16 years old, I realized that I wasn't good enough to be a pro skateboarder, and that just wasn't going to work out for me. So I started getting good at like filming and stuff like that, and just trying to make myself useful in the skateboard world. When it came time to where I was about to be 18 and about to graduate, I made money in a couple different ways. One, which I'm not so proud of and everyone shouldn't go repeat, is I found out a perfect way to steal iPods from Best Buy. And I found out that you could take a iPod case at the time. It was the iPod Shuffle, the hot little, that white USB thing. And you could take it, it was in a green box, and you could just flip the clear part around so it was all green. And then you take it to the front desk and you say, hey, I'm here to get this repaired. And they would put a sticker on it that says that you brought it in, a pink sticker. And then you go get a new iPod, flip it around, put the pink sticker on it, and walk right back out, right? Like, so and you never got caught?
So I never got caught, and I was at school just flipping iPods, right? So once again, kids don't do that. It's not cool, and stealing things is not cool. But that's what I did. I also, because I learned to film, I then learned how to edit. And so I made a video. It was called Point Blank. And I'll send you the link or whatever. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's really special. But
I don't remember this one.
Oh, boy.
You filmed it?
I have a video part. My brother has a video part. The triplets, Kevin Turpinning.
Yeah.
Yep. So even CJ, Zero, has some tricks. So I filmed and edited this whole video. It's called Point Blank. And I marketed it as like the kids from Akron. And I went to all the skate shops in Cleveland and Columbus and all the places, and I said, here's this video. This is what the kids from Akron are doing. You guys should buy it. So I think I made like $2,000 or something off of selling that video. So then my high school graduation, I made about $500, I think. So I saved up all that money. In my mind, I'm rich. I have essentially, I don't know, $3,000. So obviously I made it. And I was ready to move to LA. The quick side story, and then I'll stop talking so much, is that when I was 18, So I graduated high school June or whenever that is. That weekend was the opening of Rob's Skate Plaza in Kettering, the first ever skate plaza. So I'm like, holy cow, I'm going to graduate, walk off stage, go to my boy's house. We're driving down to Dayton, 3 hours away. We're going to spend the weekend at the Kettering Skate Plaza, meet people like Mikey Taylor, skate with them. And then probably like a week or two after, me and my brother are out of here. We're moving to LA. I made it. Peace out, Ohio. So literally on the way to the car, final day, Sunday, leaving the skate plaza, we're all going to the car. And there's a set of 7 stairs. And everyone just is kind of ollieing down the stairs on the way to the car. I don't know why, but I tried to nollie the stairs. And I went off.
What's that? Which one?
Okay, so you know this, just on both sides of the 12 stair, there's the 2 7 stairs with the handrail.
Yeah.
So the one on the left.
Okay, so the 7.
Yep, the 7. So I just go to pop a little nollie, just feeling myself on the way to the car.
Which you're totally capable of doing.
Sure, I guess not, Mikey, because I woke up 4 days later.
You got
Really?
smoked?
So I got smoked. So I only remember eating breakfast and then waking up 4 days later. But I did the like classic nose manual off the thing. Didn't pop.
I was landed back on your board.
Landed back on my board, like forward with both feet on the board, and just whipped out, smacked my head, whatever. Fracture my skull, brain bleeding, concussion on both sides from my brain smacking around.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I woke up 4 days later. I was in a coma, and the big thing was I had a blood clot in my brain from the skull fracture. So after I finally recovered and all this stuff, they wouldn't let me leave because this thing can cause big problems like seizures and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I had to stay and keep getting CAT scans every month, I think, or every 2 weeks to see if it had gone away. So finally in November, they said, look, it's not gone, but we think by now you would have had some crazy problems. You can go ahead and go. If you start having seizures or whatever, you got to come back. So I'm like, all right, here we go, right? Like I'm still excited, but I'm just scared, right? So I go. It turns out my brother had a girlfriend, whatever. So I just went for it, and I just went. That's when I
went out to LA?
Yeah. Story's a little long. When my brother was 18, my brother was an incredibly talented skateboarder.
He's still really talented.
Yes. So when he was 18, he's 4 years older than me. When he was 18, Rob saw how good he was. Even though we didn't know Rob that well, he saw videos, and we had came out here for a trip, and he said, yo, this is right when he was filming the DC video with Big Black. And he's like, come out here for the summer. You rip. Skate with me while I'm doing this video. So he did. He came out for the summer. He went to Barcelona with Rob on one of those DC trips.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was
all
on
that,
it
right?
Yeah.
And I was at home in Ohio at 14 years old, devastated, and wanted to jump off of a building because I was like, I'm never going to have this opportunity when I'm 18. Rob's going to be married, and I'm not even as good as him. Right? So I turn 18. I call Rob, and I'm like, hey, man, it's me, your little cousin, the not as talented one. I'm 18 now. My brother isn't quite ready to leave yet. Remember when you let him stay with you when he was 18? Just give me 2 months. Give me the same 2 months you gave him. Just let me find a job, work at a skate shop, whatever. So finally he was like, all right, man, sure. Like, come on out.
And does he have a show at this time?
No, he's just Rob Pro Skater.
Okay.
So he's Rob Pro Skater. He had talked about like the potential of a show, but it was just this crazy fantasy of like, we might do a TV show. Or, I was like, what? Yeah. And so, it was just Pro Skater Rob, which was still the coolest thing in the entire world. And I moved here, and I remember I landed, I went to his house. I didn't know what was going on. This is embarrassing, but the first night he had a date. And so he left, and he said, just stay here, whatever. I didn't have a car or anything. And I remember sitting on the couch, like pretty much in tears, calling my mom, being like, I can't do this. I don't know where I am. This is crazy. Like I'm at this house.
Way.
Yeah. I'm at this house. I don't know what, because I didn't really know him. Like, and I was just like, this is too, I did too much. Like I should have waited for my brother, or I should have I'm way out of my element.
And your mom talked you into staying?
I just think my mom is very incredibly loving. And I think she was just like, just give it some time and I think you'll be okay. Realistically, I wasn't leaving. I loved LA so much. I wasn't leaving, but at the time I thought I really was. And I thought at any moment I'm going to start having seizures. I'm like, I'm a mess, right? I'm like, where am I? What's even going on? So yeah, that's what happened. And that's
so you're out here. You're out here. You get a job?
So this is what happened. So I stayed with him for, I think it was a month. Obviously I ran through my $3,000 pretty quickly. And then I came out November 10th. I was going to go home December 20th for Christmas. So the plan was go home for Christmas, come back and get my job and my apartment and whatever. I kind of got acquainted. I picked out apartments. I was going around West Side Rentals, picked everything out. Literally the day before I left, or maybe 2 days before, Rob's assistant, who was going to be Nate Sherwood, funny skate fact, pressure flip Nate Sherwood,
was going to be Rob's assistant.
It's amazing.
Really?
Funny fact. How about this? How about this? The way things transpired, had that just went through, Nate Sherwood would have been drama, right? I would have been at Valser.
So wait, hang on. And I've known Rob a long time, and I know Rob goes through these crazy, like, yeah, I'm gonna put Nate Sherwood's gonna be my assistant, and he's gonna come out with this like it's so obscure and crazy.
That's how he had a rapping receptionist and a
exactly.
You know
That's how Chanel
he loves that.
So that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yep.
So then what? So what? You're competing against Nate Sherwood to become Rob's assistant?
No. So here's what happened. Nate Sherwood's his assistant.
He was his assistant.
No,
he
was lined up.
Oh.
I'm not even in the running. It's not even a conversation. And I remember where I was standing in his kitchen, and he walked out of his bedroom. He got off the phone and he said, "Man, Nate can't come." Like, because Nate was going to move from San Diego. Nate had just gotten a girlfriend. And the girlfriend said, either you move to LA with Rob or you stay here with me. It's up to you. Keep in mind, kids, Nate and his girlfriend are now broken up. So be careful what choices you make in life, because Nate passed on a big one.
Does Nate know this story?
He knows it. He knows it. He knows he was supposed to be it. And then I ended up being it.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. He knows. I don't know how much he talks about it. Nate, I love you, by the way. I don't know how much he talks about it, but absolutely he knows that it happened, because... And I think he's written Rob and said, like, bro, what the fuck? Like, I blew it, I guess. So he walks out and he's like, man, Nate just canceled. And they're like, what? Or, Big Black was around, like, what? And he's like, yeah, his girlfriend won't let him move. And he literally just said, yo, you want to do it? You want to be my assistant? And I was like, I just got off the phone crying with my mom to move home. Like, I don't know what an assistant is, right?
Wait, this happens night one. This is right after the couch.
I'm just saying. I'm just exaggerating. It was a month. Okay. But I'm like, I don't know what an assistant is. Like, I don't know how to drive in LA. I don't know. I don't even know what an assistant does. I literally had no idea what a personal assistant does. So I'm like, I don't know, man. Let me think about it. And all of our friends came to me and were like, don't do it. Like, it's going to ruin your relationship with him. He's really intense when he works. You know how he is.
Yeah.
And like, it's going to ruin your relationship with him. Just be his friend, be his cousin. Don't work for him. That's the worst thing you can do. So I almost didn't do it. At the end of the day, I realized, look, I'm going to go work at Valsurf if I'm lucky. So let me just do this, because worst case scenario, I just go to Valsurf, right? Whatever. So I said, yeah, man, I'll do it. And he said, okay, great. You can start when you come back from Ohio. So I was like, great. So I went to Ohio for Christmas, celebrated Christmas, packed up all my stuff, moved back to LA, had a job as Rob's assistant, got an apartment down at what's now the Avalon on Vineland, right down the street from here, and got to work,
I can't even imagine what being Rob's assistant would be like.
It sucked
just
so
because
bad.
I know him. Like, it sounds
sucked.
brutal. And that probably, if you would ask me then, Mikey, what do you think about me being Rob's assistant? I probably would have told you,
like, go back to Ohio.
Yeah, I wouldn't say go back to Ohio, but I would have told you not to do it.
Yeah, everyone did. Literally everyone did. They're like, trust me, you don't want to work for him. And I will say, this is the part that, like, for years I felt like I couldn't really talk about, right? Because number one, him and I are so close, but now we're more like friends, and I can say these things, right?
Yeah. And Rob is, dude, for those who don't know, Rob's like one of the coolest guys.
1,000,000%.
But he also... when you have the ambition to do what he's doing and setting out to do, you require a lot from the people around you.
100%. And let's be clear, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, my assistant now would be like, I hate drama. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, that's being an assistant, right? He didn't do anything wrong to me. But I'm just saying, I couldn't do it for so long because I just felt like we had to kind of come to a certain place where I would talk like that on a podcast.
Yeah, sure.
And also, you got to keep in mind, life gets really weird when you are on a reality show and then when you become successful, because the last thing anyone wants to hear is how hard it was being Rob's assistant. Because when Rob becomes famous, being Rob's assistant sounds like a dream job, right? Yeah. So at the time, before TV, before any of that stuff, it was tough. And I was literally folding laundry for hours and mopping the floors and making sure I was there in time to make his coffee before he woke up, and washing bed sheets and reorganizing closets. And one thing, he'd laugh at this now, but one thing that he he loves to do is he'll try on 5 outfits or maybe 10 in the morning, and when they aren't the right ones, he just sort of whips the clothes into whatever direction. So every morning I'd be like, yo, closet first, and like I'd be refolding.
Literally, you had to go pick up the outfits in the closet.
I would be refolding the shirts I folded yesterday, and I'm like, bro, just try less, right? Like try less options, right? So anyway, so I was doing all that stuff, and then and I remember even when we started filming, once again, kind of embarrassing, but the first time I really talk about this stuff, when we first started filming, there were moments when I was like out on the front steps of his house, like having sort of panic attacks, because it was just hard. Like it was like there was cameras in the house, I'm folding laundry, you're getting yelled at, you don't know, you have to go drive something to fucking the Monster Energy offices, and you don't know how to get there, and then you're trying to get in on this TV show. Like it was, you know.
Yeah. So you're Rob's assistant. Yep. Rob decides, or kind of the first series of Rob and Big starts happening. Yep. You're all of a sudden kind of famous overnight, right? So, I mean, dude, I'm sure that was a shocker, going through people knowing who you are. And while you were in it, was it like, okay, I'm going to run with this and I'm going to kind of like become as famous as I can through TV, or was it just like a platform to eventually do this, or Young and Reckless, or
here's the best way?
Or were you not even thinking about it at that point? Was it just like, this shit is wild?
Well, that was definitely it. I mean, that was my college, right? My college was like personal assistant for this crazy pro skateboarder entrepreneur guy. Watch how a TV show's made. Beyond the TV show, there's so much information packed into like those couple years. But all I can really say, I don't want to take credit for more than what I thought at the time. It was all instinctual. So I knew from the first week of being Rob's assistant that I didn't want to be Rob's assistant, right? But I know you gotta do your job. You gotta earn your way here. I knew from the first week of filming reality TV that I didn't want to be on reality TV. Like I don't know. I was never like the entertainer in school. Like I walked around with my headphones in and my hood up, like we all did, right? But at the same time, the reason why I chose to be Rob's assistant and absolutely do everything I could to do well at that, and why I also tried anything to find my dynamic in Rob and Big, was because I just knew that there's action here. Like this is where it is. I know that it's not at Valsurf. No offense to Valsurf, but I know that that's not where the action is. So I knew like, well, I don't have any goal of being famous or maximizing fame. And I also don't have any goal of being the world's longest lasting assistant. But pay your dues and get in here, and this will turn into something. I wasn't conceptualizing podcasting, Young and Reckless, all this stuff, but
you just knew there was opportunity here, and you should basically be here and see kind of what came from it, or that it was the right path to get to where you wanted to go. Or
what really happened was, so we started filming. It started, I mean, once again, long story short, it started with MTV, or our friends who were helping us do the show, which ended up being Jeff Tremaine and Ruben Fleischer, put cameras in the house. And they said, we don't know, but if something fun happens, film it. Because maybe we can show something to MTV and they'll like it. And so we were just filming each other doing stupid stuff, and nothing really came of it. And then we had this idea, whatever. The actual process of shooting pilots, revising pilots, coming up with names, trying to figure out what Rob and Big was, took over a year, right? There was 9 different pilots with 9 different titles, like Rob Dyrdek's Keys to Success, Rob Dyrdek's Rules to Live By, this, that. And they edited pilots, took them to MTV, and each one got rejected. But MTV saw something in Rob and Big Black that was magical. They just didn't know what it was. So finally, it got picked up as odd couple kind of buddy comedy, which is what Rob wanted it to be all along. They dropped the black because they didn't like the word Big Black on their thing, so it was Rob and Big, and bam, off to the races. Now, the first season, I'm there folding clothes, doing laundry. At one point, they literally, we had a problem because you have this house that is like kind of come and go, skater style, anyone can pop in. Now you're filming a MTV show, potentially. All the homies are popping in and trying to get into the conversations and like, oh, I remember that. Oh, shit. like trying to be a character. And so at one point they had to say, yo, we got to stop doing this. We got to tell everyone they can't come. We got to lock the doors, like whatever. And they said to me, like, look, man, we know you're here every day because you have to be. We know you're the assistant, whatever, but you're not part of this show. So just kind of steer clear. If we're shooting upstairs, stay downstairs. If we're blah, 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 blah. And I remember very vividly, and we actually joked about it later in a Fantasy Factory episode. There was one scene where Big Black had fallen trying to drop into Johan's mini ramp in Venice. Yeah. And he came up and he was joking and he was asking Rob to rub icy hot on his butt. And he pulled his boxers down and exposed his giant butt. And Rob said, "Drama, come upstairs, put icy hot on Big Black's butt." And I remember I was like shit. Like I was at a crossroads of life in that moment. Because here's my options. Rub Icy Hot on this giant man's butt and potentially become famous and get in on the action. But suffer everything that you've ever stood for as a man and be on TV rubbing Icy Hot on a man's butt. And I remember I said no. And I was like, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. Like, I can't. And so Rob ended up doing it. And I remember going home devastated, like, that was my chance,
you lost your shot.
You took yourself too serious. You lost your chance. That was your way in. Your way in is that you're the cousin, the funny guy. Who cares, right? Who cares? And so the next scene, I remember it once again very vividly. They literally hung me. They had a wall painted of all the homies back by the pool. And they're like, Drama, you want to be on the wall? And I'm like, hell yeah, I want to be on the wall. And Big Black and his homies strapped me up by my jeans and hung me up on the wall. And like I was dangling from the wall. And I remember sitting there so embarrassed, but like, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to make it. Like, I'm going to do it. And like, that was my way in. And so every time he'd be like, Drama, come up here, do this, drama. I'm like, I'm in, man. Because I didn't know what it was going to be, but I wanted in. And then here's the kicker, right? Here's the kicker.
That's so sick, dude.
So the
amazing.
first season, I was probably on the show, like, I don't know, maybe 2 times. I was like, these little scenes. They didn't pay me, right? Like, they were like, you're lucky to be on this thing. And I'm like, hell yeah, I am. And then...
so how are you making money? Rob's paying you to be an assistant
Rob's paying me, yeah. So the way that I'll just tell you, the way our deal worked was I had this little studio apartment, I had my car, and then he gave me $500. And I don't mean that to say Rob did anything wrong, but I mean I was living off $500, but at the time, who cares? I'm living in LA, whatever. So we did the first season of Rob and Big. At least I'm getting my way in, but I'm still making $0. I don't have a contract. I don't have anything. Second season, I think they said, we'll pay you $1,500 for every episode that you're actually on. And I was like, well, rich. So whatever, rich and famous.
Yeah.
And I think I was on 3 episodes, right? So I got a check from Viacom for $4,500.
Now you're just famous.
So
not rich yet, just famous.
No, I'm filthy rich, rolling in the dough. So and then I think the third season, it was like $3,000 for every episode I was on or something. And I was on like 4 episodes, right? So my fame, or like when you say like, you became famous and people started recognizing you, I did. But the way that it really worked was like, they became superstars. Yeah. And I would be with them. Like we would go to Vegas or we do these things and, it'd be like, oh my God, Rob Big Black. And then in the background you hear Drama. You're like one person like, what? Somebody noticed me? But if I went to the store by myself, like nobody was recognizing me, you know? So that's kind of what that, but those guys, I mean, I look back on it now and I'm like, holy cow. Like that was a moment in like pop culture. Everyone watched that show. Yeah. Those guys became so famous. They couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was like, it's even just to witness that is nuts,
So you're with Rom Big. They're larger than life. How did Young and Reckless? Were you like, shit, I'm on TV. People can see this. I'm going to do a clothing brand? Or was it like, Rob, let's do a clothing brand and you'll wear it and it'll be a success overnight, and the first year will be.
I'll tell you, but there's a road to that. So.
But that's dude, I would have thought the same thing. Before having done anything, I would have thought, you put a thing on TV and it's successful and you're rich.
Course. Yeah, of course. No, I'm not like saying you're wrong. I'm saying
that's what I would have thought.
That's what I was hoping for.
I don't think that's right.
Here I am 10 years later, like, okay, when does the overnight success happen?
So you have this idea.
So the way that it went down is this. Through the time, I was essentially Rob's assistant through the entire time of filming Rob and Big. In that time, I paid very close attention. And I watched him do deals with Red Bull. I watched the Red Bull deal go away or fall apart or whatever, renegotiated with Monster. I watched him print his own shirts with the Monster logo on. I remember he used to wear those orange shirts. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the best school you could get. Then I watched Johan and those guys starting Rogue Status, and they would come to the house and they bought out one of the partners, and I'm watching all this. And also I'm making friends with other, like the reason I started making beats, was because of Terry Kennedy, was because I was hanging out with him and I saw Felix making all the beats for them. And so I spent every dollar that I had to buy a little keyboard. I named myself Drama Beats, and I started giving horrible beats to the producers of the show and asking them please to put me in the background music. So like if you watch old episodes, I watch it now and literally crack up laughing, but you'll come in from a commercial and it will be the world's worst ringtone beat in the world, and that's a Drama beat. And I was like, man, here I am, the next Scott Storch. This is great. I'm on the road to success. So I was just trying things. I was learning things. I was soaking up information from anyone from Terry Kennedy to Rob to anyone that I could be around. And here's a funny part of the story that'll come back too is I watched Rob making millions of dollars off all his sponsors. I watched Big Black on the second and third season start Big Black Clothing and make over $1 million cash. I mean, I saw him opening checks for $300,000 that were being delivered to the house. And I thought that at that time, that was $20 million to me at the time. Mm-hmm. So I watched him do that. I watched him put it in PacSun. I watched all this stuff happen. And so I think that just kind of stuck with me. I still chose a hopeful career as a music producer. And then when Rob and Big ended, I went off to be a music producer. I quit working for Rob. I'm like, I'm going to be a music producer. I'm going to follow this thing. And that was going to be my life. So covering a lot of ground. Oh, this is sorry.
Well, dude, we're squeezing.
10
years into an
hour. So here's the good part too. At that time, this is the hilarious part. I think it was the third season of Rob and Big. I went to these guys who owned a company called 5-4. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey guys, they were friends of friends. And I said, hey guys, I'm on this show and blah, blah, blah. It's a hit and whatever. And I said, for $500 a month, I'll wear your clothes every episode, every day, I'll sleep in it. And they're like, nah, we don't really do that. Not really worth it for us. And I was crushed. I'm like, man, I'm watching these guys print money and I'm just not famous enough. I'm just not enough a part of the show to be of any value. So I'm like, God damn it. So then we we quit doing Rob and Big. That lasted, I think, a little over a year, 2 years in between. Started doing Fantasy Factory. When Fantasy Factory got picked up, Big Black had moved to Texas because he had a kid and wanted to just raise his kid in peace. Rob and I were the only ones left. We decided to do this thing, started Fantasy Factory. I said, this is my chance. Like, this is it. So I was still doing the music production, but I'm like, I need something that's mine, that I can wear, that I can market directly to this audience. I mean, when you're selling beats, it doesn't do you any good to be on TV. Nobody cares. Totally. A young thug doesn't care if you're on a TV show. It's probably a worse thing for you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I need my thing. I watch these guys make money. I watch how these brands were made. And that's when I started to conceptualize Young and Reckless, because I knew that when that show got picked up, now I'm the co-star. Mm-hmm. This is my shot to make money. I need to figure this thing out. And what's funny is so I went to Rob because I hoped that would play out. I went to Rob and I said, hey man, I want to start a clothing line. This is what it's called. This is what it is. Where do I sign? And he's like,
where do I sign? Like, where is it?
So where do the checks?
Where's the contract?
Should the checks be delivered here, or did you direct transfer, or like how's this work? And so he was essentially like, look, if you want to start a clothing line, you should go start a clothing line. And I was devastated, right? I was like, what, man? Like, you're the dream maker. You know what I mean? Like, what? Yeah. And he was just too busy and just had a million things going on. And like his cousin was some wild idea. Like he doesn't, but I was devastated. But I am so incredibly thankful that happened, because what it forced me to do is go take awkward, uncomfortable meetings, meet with business partners, not go through DC, not go through these relationships that he had, and find my own thing. And what's funny is I ended up going back, and one of the meetings was with 5-4, who I had asked to give me $500. And they're the ones I ended up partnering with. Oh, cool. And so now they're my business partners, and we've made a lot of money together and had a lot of success. But I always joke with them, like, man, if you would have just paid me $500 a month,
it would have saved.
You could have saved a lot of time. Yeah. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's what happened. I trademarked it. I got it all together, got the logos, got everything. I wanted to create a brand that meant something, like felt like it was something. I remember Famous Stars and Straps was huge when I was in high school because the shirt said famous. And I was like, man, if these cornballs can walk around with shirts on from my school that say famous and they think they're famous, well, then I want people walking around in shirts that say Young and Reckless and feeling empowered to go be crazy and chase their dreams and do whatever. And so that's where that name came from. And
I just remember like you guys launched it, and it was like, this might not have been when you launched, but I feel like it was like all of a sudden you had Meek Mills wearing your shit. You had a bunch of girls wearing it.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the marketing initiatives that you guys did.
Was that planned, the girl thing?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you the timeline, right? Because once again,
is this before or after the Dime Squad? The Dime Squad, was that born after this?
Oh, good question. I don't know, but I can tell you one thing: I didn't copy, so they might have.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But here's what happened. Here's the real way it worked. So what really happened was, season 1 of Fantasy Factory comes around. Bam! I'm the co-star. Let's get it, Rob. Me and you. I didn't get my trademarks and everything done in time, and so I couldn't wear it on the first season of the show, because obviously you can't do that on MTV. So I was devastated. So if you watch season 1, I'm wearing
diamond. I'm wearing Crooks and Castles.
So wait a minute. You had the idea, started the company, didn't get trademarks done. So you're sitting on this brand that you know you could blow up through the show.
Yep.
And you can't do it.
Can't do it.
Oh my God.
And I am devastated because in my mind, I'm like, well,
this is your shot.
There goes your shot, buddy. Back to Ohio you go. And I'm devastated, and I'm wearing other people's brands. And I know the power of it, and I'm like, man, I blew it, because you don't know. Maybe the show does one season. I mean, every time an episode would air, we'd wait the next morning for ratings, and you're waiting to see if you're canceled, picked up, whatever. So whatever.
And trademarks can be a bitch too.
Yeah. So I finally got everything finished for the second season. Second season, I launch it. I have this little mini office that's like a mini version of Rob's office. I just wrap the thing in Young and Reckless, right? I print a sample box of shirts. I am just young and reckless to the teeth, right? I'm like, you are not missing me. So I wear it on everything. Naturally, I got really lucky because around the second season, MTV in their notes called and said, we want to see what Drama's up to. Like, we know Drama doesn't work for you anymore. You're not acting like he is. What is he doing as a character? So perfect. You know what I'm doing? I'm doing a clothing brand. Let's do an episode about it. So we tie it into the show. Here's what really happened. And I'll tell you this story because I think it's valuable. The way that we hustled the system, me and my business partners, is we spent just enough money, $300, to print samples for me to wear on the show. I wore it all over the show. I made it look like the biggest thing ever. I had a good relationship with the editors and with everyone on the show. As soon as that episode, the first episode, was finished being edited, we went and got a DVD of the cut. This was like 3 months before it came out on TV. I took that DVD with my partner down to PacSun, and I said, hey guys, this is about to be the next biggest thing in the world. You know how powerful these shows are. You see what it did for DC. Here's the deal. We'll give it to you exclusively for 6 months, but you have to put it in all doors, and you have to have it in the front window the day after this show airs. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, here's what I'll do. Autograph signings at your stores. I'll push all my social media to you. Everything will be PacSun. I'll even say it in the show. But this is what you guys got to do for me. They're like, all right, cool. Because if all else fails, at least we got a lot of shout outs, right? So we do that. They put it in the stores. Here's what happened. Episode airs. It did pretty well. Like, sales were pretty good. We got good reports. I'm like, okay, well, here's my I'm rich moment. You know, I've had 7 of them now, but this is definitely the real one. But the moment the show went off the air, sales tanked. And those things our shirts were on the floor in the back of the store and could not sell a shirt to save our lives. And I was devastated because the last thing I don't want to be a celebrity. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want you buying my merch. I want to be a business owner, and I want to be known for running a good business, not for being a celebrity who sells merch. So I'm devastated because what am I? I'm a celebrity who sells merch, who can only sell merch when his show is on the air. Other than that, he's a loser. So
shit.
Yeah.
And how long was the episode, or how long was the season? Is that 3 months?
8 weeks, yeah. 8 to 12 weeks.
Okay.
So that's when I was like, okay, here's the gift and the curse. You just got to realize it. You're on TV, you're shown to millions of eyeballs. That's huge. That's great. Great way to blow up a brand. The bad thing is millions of people see it as your merch. That's just a fact, right? So get over that and do enough marketing outside of yourself, not talking about yourself, to show that this is a real brand.
Yeah.
So that's when we went and we broke the bank. And thank you, Meek, free Meek. But we broke the bank on Meek because we were like, this is our chance. Meek was a new artist about to put out a new album. And I'm like, if we have him and his album blows up and he blows up, now he's associated with Young and Reckless. And that takes a lot of weight off me. We had every athlete under the sun coming to the office, chasing people down to take pictures on my cell phone, doing anything I could. Every athlete, artist, everyone. That's why I know so many people now today, because I met them all then, you know? And so I'm just posting, Young and Reckless. That's when it started to feel like, damn, everyone's wearing this thing. Then slightly after that is when I started saying, well, we need photo shoots. Obviously, hot girls are great for marketing. Let's do that. So I went to a couple friends who were real photographers. And I said, hey, when you're doing your test shoots, because that's what these, LA photographers do. When you're doing your test shoots, just do me a favor and put these shirts on a couple girls and let me post them. And they're like, okay, cool. And it worked. We saw how cool it was. It looked cool. It started working. So then we said, okay, well, how do we scale this a little bit? And what we ended up doing, long story short, is putting a photographer on retainer, calling it Reckless Girls. My goal was to be like a younger, more reckless version of the Victoria's Secret Angels, right? And and just shoot nonstop and have these girls wearing the stuff, start the Instagram page, whatever. And it worked. I will say it worked better than I thought it ever would. And to the point of where it made life really weird, because everywhere I'd go,
you see it.
Like, well, no. And everywhere I'd go, my friends would be like, hey, where are the Reckless girls? And I'm like, dude, that's not what I do. Like, I don't just everywhere I go, I have 7 girls with me. Like, I'm not Hugh Hefner, you know, and, but it just worked really well. And so that's where, so then finally, I would say second season, we had some, that was the first time I premiered the line, had some success, it hit the bottom. Third season, had a little bit more success, a little less of the bottom. Fourth season, right? And it finally, by I think the 5th season, kept growing, not relying on me, and kept building. And that's when I knew, okay, we're making an impact.
And are you exclusive to PacSun at this point the whole time? Or was it just a 6-month launch?
6 months. So our plan was, I love you, PacSun, but my plan was to use them to make it real, to have it in 600 malls, to make it a thing, and then to be able to go branch out. You know, we did Tilly's, Zoomies a little bit, Macy's, Dillard's, the Buckle. I mean, we went everywhere.
And was it across the board? The second you were off TV, sales went down at all locations or just PacSun?
So the first season was the worst. And that was PacSun only, and it tanked. But literally, I would say after the 3rd and 4th season. It
started kind of.
But no, 3rd and 4th season, it tanked everywhere. It wasn't until 5th season where I think in between the 5th and the 6th season, it started climbing on its own. And that was right when the Reckless girls were popping. We were pretty fresh off of Meek Mill. That's when you're feeling it. That's when you were like, damn, this guy's like, whatever. Yeah. That's when that was. So it was a couple years of getting beat on a little bit, but then it opened up to just moving on its own, and we're getting new accounts. And
at this point, you're just retail.
Yeah, we had an online store, but I think we were doing, you know, I don't know. Our clicks were insane because we're on TV, but literally we were doing $100,000 in sales or something meaningless. Okay. So yeah.
PacSun going bankrupt probably stung.
So I'll tell you about it. Here's the thing. Thank God we had a really good relationship with them. They were very honest with us, and so we didn't know it was coming, but we knew they were in trouble.
When did it happen? I can't even remember now.
That was 2015.
It wasn't that long ago.
No.
Okay.
So we saw it coming, and so we adjusted. Like we just made sure that we were really careful with what we were shipping them and how much we were shipping them, and just made sure that we weren't racking up too big of a debt that you can bankrupt yourself out of and not get paid.
Yeah.
The other thing was, thankfully, we had also built up enough retail outside of them by that point, with all these other retailers where it wasn't the only thing. And then we had started to grow our e-commerce, so it wasn't the only thing. So what I will say was the most heartbreaking part of it, there were 2 things. Number one, it did hurt. I mean, it did cause like us to tighten up, and it did cause us to rearrange and let a couple people go and be really safe and make sure that we
Did you have to restructure the whole company?
I restructured the whole company sort of, I would say, a little bit because of that, but mainly because that was the ultimate sign that everything is e-com.
Sure.
So we restructured saying, okay, you know what? We're not going to get caught in this.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to make sure that we put all of our effort into e-com. And so that means like your sales team is irrelevant, right? If you're building e-com, your sales team is meaningless. So that's 7 people that no longer need jobs because it doesn't really matter, right? There's all these people that there's even marketing people that deal with retail strategy, like doing sweepstakes and doing all these retail concepts that you don't need anymore.
Yeah.
And so we were letting those people go. We were being very cautious of costs, and we just dramatically restructured. Now, here's the heartbreaker, here's the lesson. The lesson and the heartbreaker is it does not matter if you, I spent 6 years at that point, 7 years at that point, driving down there all the time, going to in-store signings, bending over backwards, doing everything I could to build a business in a retailer, because that's what you do when you have a business. If they run into trouble, if any retailer runs into trouble, it doesn't matter. Nobody feels bad for you. Nobody cares. Nobody says, oh, this isn't fair. You're right. Here's your money back. Nobody gives a crap, right? Yep. And so I think that was a really big awakening of like sometimes when industries change, you know, think of Blockbuster, think of all these people. I'm sure they sat around and said, this isn't fair, or it's going to come back, or whatever. And it doesn't. And so you either adjust or you get murdered at somebody else's, expense. So I think that was more of the stinger of like, damn, the world isn't fair for a little bit. But
So to dive into that a little more, what did the company look like before the e-commerce switch and after?
Yeah, how many employees did you have before PacSun crashed?
And then also sales versus like retailers versus online.
So here's the big thing. I think it changed heavily, obviously internally, like employees and structure. So I would say it went from, not too bad. It went from 52 or 3 employees down to like 38, I think.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. I think that the main thing that that also happened was, so like let's just say of those 38 left, they weren't necessarily 38 of the originals, meaning a lot of people were swapped.
Yeah.
And I think the hard part about that was it was a real moment when, let's be honest, when your reckless girls are popping and you're in the club popping bottles and you got your fancy cars and you're known as the clothing guy and you're working with your friends and you're doing Meek Mill shoots, life's pretty fun. But when you have to sit across the desk from somebody who now is your really good friend because you've been popping bottles and hanging out with Meek Mill, and you got to say, hey, there's just no longer a spot for you here, that's a pretty rough, like sobering moment, you know? And so there was a lot of those moments, and I am the one in charge of that. I'm the one having those conversations. So that was a rude awakening and a bit of a humbling experience. And that's why that hurt, that moment hurt for all of those reasons. And then from a business point of view, I would say that like our e-com, for instance, we had a year that was a little down. And then we were back up, and last year was our biggest year in history, thank God. And we went from our e-commerce being 8% of our overall business to this year it will be a little over 50%.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So we just like aggressively, that's why I say
down.
like my answer to that question, and this is what I would encourage everyone to do, is act very dramatically before you're forced to.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to be forced to. You can't escape it. And a lot of our friends and people we know that had brands that got their asses kicked didn't make the hard decisions before life made the decisions for them. And I'll tell you, man, when life makes the decision for you, it's a lot harder to recover from than having to do it yourself and get out in front of it. And that's the lessons that I learned. So it stung, but we did the right thing,
So you basically had a 2-year period where you went from 8% e-commerce to 50% e-commerce.
Yeah. And that came from saying, look, this is what's happening. Take it or leave it. You could see the trend. You see what happened to PacSun.
Yeah.
You could see that was going to happen to everyone else. And so let's make the switch and let's put all of our effort and all of our marketing and all of our everything into e-commerce.
Yeah, totally.
And we still do retail. And we still work with PacSun. I love those guys. They're doing a great job dealing with all this stuff. But we essentially took the benefit of being in all these retailers and used that income to grow our e-commerce because we knew that's where the future is. And finally this year, 2018 is the year when that's really going to pay off because we're not having to spend so much to grow e-com. We're not having to do all those things. So we will be very profitable, very healthy, and bigger than ever in our own power and not relying on anyone else.
And margins go up.
Margins go up. And I'll tell you who's not going bankrupt is Shopify.
No, hell, dude, Shopify is...
So you're going to be fine.
that was a game changer.
Yeah, but it only came from those conversations sucked. Like I had a rough 6 months, where I was like, the darkest, there was a time frame there where I was waiting till 9 p.m. That was my thing, until 9 p.m. every night to start drinking wine. And I would just be at my house, pacing in circles, just chugging wine. But as long as I waited till 9, I wasn't I didn't have a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, that's a boundary. That's good.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? Alcoholics drink before 9, but I'm fine. And so, it was just and you're just thinking about damn, this was all, this was luck.
Yeah.
You are a sham. This is blah, 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 But those are the moments that decide whether you are or aren't. It's up to you, you know?
So, dude, sorry, go ahead, Mikey.
No, I was just going to say, it's, I don't, maybe you do, maybe it's just you being humble, but I think you have a very good intuition on making calls. I don't know if you give yourself enough credit for that, or maybe you just don't want to. But that is, dude, that's not an easy call to make. To let people go sucks. Yeah. It sucks, right? To take a position of you have a brand that's doing so well in retail and go, you know what, we're gonna steer this ship in a different direction. And it was a big ship at that point. 2015, you did what, 37 million? That's not
31. Yeah.
31 million.
Yeah. I'll take the extra 6.
Not a small company, right?
Yeah.
Maybe compared to others, but in our space, that's a decent sized company.
Yeah.
And to see that on the wall and do it, especially you're not married. Like I saw the writing on the wall because I just watched my wife no longer go to stores, and all the shit was showing up at my door. So I'm like, okay, something's happening.
Yeah.
But dude, that's impressive, dude. And I'm stoked that, dude, 50-50 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's a great percentage of e-com to retail.
And it'll keep going in that direction. Like if we had this conversation a year from now, I think I'd probably say 80-20.
If you had the option to go 100% e-com, would you?
Absolutely.
I would too.
No question. And here's the thing. Yes, I'm humble. I'm humble because I've been through it. Like I've seen it's rough.
Yeah, so you become humble when everything stops working the way you want it to work.
And just think I'm also not humble. Hell yeah, I know what I'm doing. Like hell yeah. That shit happens again. There he is. If that happened again next year, I would know what the hell I'm doing. Like trust me, I know what the hell I'm doing. But you just don't. You can tell the people that come on here or the people that come on anywhere and say, you just gotta hustle. You just got like most of them haven't actually been through it. And that's why they act that way, because it's easy to act that way if you haven't seen what it means to actually go through it. Going through it means firing your friends. Going through it means staying up all night chugging wine, trying to figure out what the hell your life means. That's going through it. And I know that if that shit happened again in a year, I would succeed, but I would go through it again. You know what I mean? Like that's it's kind of like, I mean, I know what I'm doing, but the shit's tough.
Yeah.
It is tough. I love it though.
Yeah.
I love hearing it.
But I'm fucking I am happy as ever, and like we made it out. You know what I mean? It gave me, I swear I aged like for a good in a good way. I matured like 10 years in that like year and a half or 2 years.
Well, yeah, dude, when you go through trials and come out of them, changes you for the better.
Yeah, and I think like, I've always been a pretty humble dude, and I think that I'm like, I pay attention, I work hard, all that stuff. But also like life gets real good when you're on TV and you're making millions of dollars and your brand's the hottest thing ever and people think you're rolling around with 7 girls all the time, and like you're able to get in like a pretty comfy spot, and it's good that life will smack your face and wake you up and say, do you really want this or not?
So it seems like what you're doing is resonating. Let me ask you a question. When you came on here, did you think we were a skate podcast? What did you think of us when you thought of it?
No, because I knew you wouldn't. I knew you wouldn't ask me to come on here and like ask me what I thought about like Nigel's Nike part. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I remember you did that kickflip back tail big spin, which I did, by the way. Look it up on YouTube. But like, no big deal. No, I figured this was it because I see Mikey. Like Mikey's going hard on the entrepreneurship stuff, and Mikey's a successful entrepreneur and investor. And I see Mikey on all the like the Gary Vee accounts and the Lewis Howes and the everyone. Mikey's right there in the comments, like hell yeah.
I'm active
every single time.
I left my business. Okay, when I was leaving my office to come here, my business partner, who is a 37-year-old Indian man, USC graduate, entrepreneur for life. As I left, he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to do this podcast with my boy Mikey Taylor. And he's like, oh, me and Mikey are friends. That's D.
Yeah.
He's like, me and Mikey are friends. I've never met him, but we're friends. He's real positive. He's always in my comments. We're buddies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
I like D. We haven't met yet. I like him.
Yeah. You guys are already friends.
That's all we hear nowadays. Mikey, how do you comment on, he personally does it on everything.
So you got to.
I'm active right now. Not to like take this on to me. And I actually would like to know if like you're going through this algorithm bullshit with Instagram, like the good old days of Instagram, right? Yeah. You do a post, everyone loves it, you gain 1,000 followers that day, and you do it again, rinse and repeat. It's all working, right? Yep. Well,
there goes that.
5 months ago, I'm looking at my photo going, I got those likes 6 years ago when I had 30,000 followers. How am I getting the same amount of likes at 500, right? Yeah. And then I start going into this like, why isn't my shit working? How do I fix this? I start DMing kids, all these Gen Z kids. I have this like network of Gen Z kids now. Yeah. And I'm like, guys,
Casey Adams.
Dude,
he'll tell you anything you want to know.
I'm in a DM group with 60 Gen Z kids. And I feel like a dinosaur. I'm like, guys, why isn't my shit engaging? What do I need to do? And they're giving me tips every day. So dude, I feel like a social media pro now just because I was forced to get back in it and basically work at building a following again, where it was like, it was too easy a year ago, 2 years ago.
But that's the same lesson. That's the PacSun bankruptcy lesson, right? That's the like, everything's going great, you're doing good, bam, things change out of your control. What if Instagram just isn't cool anymore at all tomorrow? That's out of our control. Everything is gone. That could very well happen. And I think that like, if you're not ready for the moment that happens to forego all of your pride and do whatever it takes to figure it out, somebody else is going to.
So do you think it's like having a plan in case something happens, or is it more having confidence in yourself that when things go wrong, you're going to figure out the plan and move on from it?
Here's what I think. I don't think it's smart to either A, plan for disaster, or also act like disaster will never come. I think that it's most important to always be ready for disaster and not lie to yourself and say that it's not there when it is there. When you see the signs, move.
Yeah.
It's that easy. But what happens is when you become, it doesn't matter if you're famous on, let's say, network television, which is no longer relevant, or you've built an Instagram following, or you've built a clothing line at retail. It doesn't matter. People have this idea that because you've spent a long time building something, it's yours forever. That's how we think. We think there's like a made it moment, or like I built this and now it's mine. That doesn't happen. It doesn't matter. And so the moment that you think like that, you're done.
Have you ever had I made it moment? Have you ever sat back and went, I fucking did it?
No, hell no.
Not me neither. You think you ever will?
No, I don't think it exists. I am very at peace with the fact that for me, it doesn't exist. I don't think
because it's the journey, right?
It
to me, it's
is,
all this.
though.
It's fun, right?
It is. It doesn't. I mean, before I came here, I interviewed the owner, the creator of Zappos. He had obviously a large portion of equity, and Zappos sold to Amazon for $1.5 billion. And this guy was the most stir crazy, hungry, ready. He just started a nacho shop. Like he is just, there's not a piece of him that cares that he's sitting on who knows how many hundreds of millions. It's just not it. It's not the thing. That's why famous people like have all these drug problems and are killing themselves, and rich people have the same thing. And there's no answer. There's no made it. There's no you're done. You get to relax. The fun and the joy and the everything is in figuring it out every day and making a little bit of progress every day. That's it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned beats as something you did that didn't work out. What about anything else? Is there other stuff that you did
a lot of fails?
I've had
tell us
some
about
fails.
a few.
Yeah.
So I had beats. So I started doing production, thought I was Scott Storch. I also paid a lot of money to build a studio. I think it was like 50 grand in studio equipment.
I remember that.
Yep. Hired 2 producers to work under me, had a production team. I've always had this like business mind, but sometimes a little too much. And it just didn't work. It just failed, right? The money wasn't worth all the salaries and everything. And I started a microwave burrito company, which that was like, hey, I have this success with Young and Reckless. What I did is I partnered with a company who could handle infrastructure to get it started. I have a relationship with a retailer. I have a reality show platform. So why don't I go to a customer base that's way bigger than T-shirts and PacSun and go to college kids eating burritos at 7-Eleven? That's everybody, right? Like, who cares about clothing money? This is burrito money. Like, I'm going to be filthy rich.
The fact that you landed a microwavable burrito.
Because what else? You tell me, MTV fans, what's the main thing they're buying?
Shit.
So why did that
burritos.
not
I
work?
actually don't
Tell
know.
us about it.
I would have never thought that.
I'll tell you what it is. Microwave burritos. And you know what I thought? I thought it's called loudmouth burritos, and it's different from normal burritos because everyone has a unique flavor. So the first 2 were pizza and cheeseburger. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the streetwear model. I'm going to go to Pink's Hot Dogs and do a limited edition run of Pink's Hot Dogs flavored, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go to all these famous, well-known restaurants and do collabs. And it's going to be at 7-Eleven.
And you killed it?
I did not kill it. It killed me. So I went and I was literally doing in-store signings like I was at a PacSun, but at like Loaf and Jug in Idaho. And it is the weirdest crowd, man. It's like
people come up?
It's
Did
like the
people
people
show
who
up?
couldn't what?
Did people show up?
People showed up, but it is not good people. You know, you go to an autograph signing at a gas station in Idaho, and I'll tell you.
We've done them for Villager.
Well, how was it?
You know what? It was.
I know you can't hate on your fans.
No, actually, we did one in Vegas, right? We're going to Vegas.
Okay, so
it was at like a what's the company that owns? I think Shell.
Yep.
But it's not Shell out there. It's something else, right?
Yep.
Whatever it is, we're sitting at a gas station at 5 o'clock. It's 120 degrees. We're signing posters of whatever skaters.
Yep.
Dude, it was actually like blew my mind. It was like the same people you'd see at an active.
Okay, so let me
in
give you
front of
just a
Shell.
little bit of a context, right? Number 1, you're a bunch of pro skateboarders that have fans for being skateboarders.
Yeah.
Number 2, you're selling like a nice, healthy coconut water. I'm selling microwave burritos to MTV fans in Idaho. Do you know what difference that makes? It is rough. Yeah. And it is like, man, sometimes you think you got it all figured out and you sure as hell don't. And so it didn't work.
Step away from it?
I'll tell you the big lesson learned from that one. There's always a lesson. The lesson was this. The same way I went to 5'4", who had an established clothing line for 10 years because I wanted to get this thing off the ground fast and then build my own infrastructure. I tried to do that with Hormel, a massive burrito and frozen food maker, because I'm like, same thing. I take them the idea, pitch them the concept. They'll take on all the liability, all the everything. Great, home run. They have all the relationships. The problem is this. Those type of businesses have shelf space built up in all of these retailers for their own product. Yeah. And when they release a new, bigger, better, beefier burrito, they want their own space. Yeah. So what happens is you come in and you say, we have a 2-year agreement with you, and then we get to leave. Why are they going to give you their own shelf space that they've been building for 35 years? Yeah. They're not. So we killed ourselves the moment we started. Mm-hmm. So that didn't work. What else? I was saying I even when Rob started Street League, I was a clothing guy. So I said, hey, Rob, it's me, clothing guy. I'd like to come in and do all the clothing for Street League. And he was like, sure, why not, right? So I go, all right, I got this handled, design, everything, whatever. And it just didn't work at all. Like, because of our infrastructure and what we did, like, we shipped to retailers. That was our business. We had a pretty tight ship. They were doing live events. They were doing all this other stuff. And it just, I underestimated how much work it really is to build another team to handle a different distribution. Yeah. And so that didn't work. And I had to have that moment with Rob of like, all right, so we should just kind of, I'm going to go this way, you go that way, sort of thing. But yeah, there were a few, I've had investments. You know, I invested in the Uber of private jets, and I might as well black jet. Yep. Yeah, might as well just set my cash on fire. Yeah, so I've had that, and yeah, there's been top to bottom. So let's
talk about your social.
Hey, I got a question real quick. Actually, I wanted to ask before. So talking about infrastructure, I know 5'4" has a massive subscription model now, right? Oh, yeah. Change your business.
Absolutely.
Do you guys offer that as well?
No.
No.
So we don't, because this, once again, lesson learned about just because it works here does not mean it'll work there. The reason that works for them is because they are selling for $60, I believe it's 3 items of men's contemporary clothing, right? So a button up, a jacket, pair of jeans. So the sell is this. It's for the 30-plus guy who wants to still look presentable, but can't stand to go to the mall and look around, just doesn't care. So they ship you a very affordable answer to that, where you still look good, you feel good. They do collaborations with designers. It's really cool.
It's a good model.
But there's a need for that. Yeah. There's not a need for like, hey, get 3 T-shirts a month. That's why I see everyone trying it. But when I see everyone trying it, I see you just saying subscription works here, so subscription will probably work here. Yeah. And you got to think, like, is there a customer for that subscription? And
I think everybody gets so like enamored by how, when a subscription model works, how good it works. Yeah. Right. So it's like, dude, but that's life, bro. That's what I'm telling you is that's everyone. That's me coming on here trying to act like Gary Vee, or that's this person doing that. Totally. What happens is a lot of people see success and they try to just copy it because they think that you can, and it's just not that easy. You can copy success and get success. There's places like Zara that do it for a living and make a killing. Totally. But you have to make sure that model makes sense as a whole of what you're doing. Do kids want 3 of my T-shirts and a dad hat a month for $47? No, you don't. Yeah, like, you don't. You want to go buy one of these, one of those. I am feeling the dad hat look though. I know you're running it tough right now. I'm backing it.
I feel like an adult. I feel like I'm at like a golf course maybe.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, let's talk about your social. Yep. So you're doing your podcast. How does Young and Reckless tie in with what you're doing? And then give us a rundown on what you're doing.
Yep. So what I'm doing as a whole is trying to figure all of this out. I'm not even going to act like I'm the master. But what I am doing is I'm creating content. And I'm creating content that's in line with who and what I am and what I stand for and what I can speak on at all times. So you'll never catch me out of pocket. You'll never interview me and have me tripping over my words or not knowing what I'm talking about. I won't put myself in that position. Like I said, what I am is a 31-year-old dude with a high school education that figured this shit out and has learned a lot and found a life better than he ever imagined, right? So I show that on everything I do, and I try to teach. On my Instagram, I use that as kind of a top line place. It's where the majority of people go. It's where you can interact the most on comments, but there's no depth. You're not grabbing anyone with your Instagram. I'm grabbing you on my podcast. That's a fraction of the eyeballs, but that's also 2 hours of listening to me talk over swiping past an image of me in a fancy car, right? So that's where I'm grabbing you. Then I'm trying to do these video blogs that are like, hey, actually watch. I'm not trying to fancy it up. Watch my life, watch what I'm doing. Hopefully you get inspired. We can learn together, whatever. But it's all in line with that same thing. And it's all trying to make sure that I can hit on all fronts and tie people into this same message. And that's what Young and Reckless is, right? Young and Reckless should inspire people to live outside of the status quo in the pursuit to chase the best life possible. That life for you can mean that you go backpacking through Alaska. It can mean that you start 17 companies. It can mean whatever it is. But I want to be the one that gave you that push to do that. So my way of doing that is, look at me, I started these companies. I'm that guy. I'm the kid from Ohio, blah, blah, blah. I did this, and I'm going to highlight people who have done other great things. Like all the people on my podcast, the way I look at it, at one point, they were young and reckless. They made it. You know what I mean? Like they were the young guy who didn't know what the hell they were doing, and now they've figured it out and they become really successful. So let me tell you those stories over and over and over again, and that's my goal. I want people to come up to me at some point and say, I have a better life than I thought I would because of a piece of content I saw of yours. That's the best gift you can possibly get.
Hey man, I'll say this. Me and Mikey talk about this all the time. Our take on it is we think that culture is what's going to influence. That the leadership thing, the old way it's done, is changing, and that people who are looking more natural and in influencing culture are going to start taking that
especially
over.
Like, dude, you can't tell what's what anymore on social media. You can't tell who really has followers, who doesn't. You can't tell if somebody is successful, is not. It kind of feels as fake to me as ever, right? So to me, the only true evolution from is like people are going to be so sick of seeing fake that they're going to go, I'm really going to pull the authentic out, and I'm going to listen to them, and everyone else I'm just going to let kind of go away, right? So it's like kind of on that. It's like
it's true. People are just smarter.
Be authentic. Like you should don't like.
You're starting to hear that over and over. Authenticity and being genuine, you're starting to hear that.
Well, yeah, because it's like saying, it's like when
media.
somebody talks about not lying, right? Don't ever lie, because then you're not going to get caught in a lie, right? Same exact thing. Be yourself, then you don't have to ever worry about being in a situation where you can't answer a question because you're only talking about what you know.
Yep, it's 100% true. And I think people now, like, they'd rather you say you don't know if you don't know. Like, they'd rather you joke about, I don't know about financials, or I don't know about.
That's new, though.
100%.
Like, if you look at like the old generation, that wasn't the case. It was like, don't ever act like you don't know what you're talking about. Try to talk through it. It was like this, like,
the facade is dying. I mean, that's why also look at, like, okay, every gatekeeper of every industry across every platform is dying quickly and dead forever, right? And that's just a fact. You don't need them. Influencers are more powerful than actors. Look at Will Smith. I don't know how much you're following Will Smith.
Oh yeah,
I followed him the second he jumped on.
So good,
crushing it.
Unbelievable.
And he is the first guy that should have said, a vlog. You want me to start a vlog, right? He should have. Yeah. But he didn't. He did the right thing. And that is, you got to connect, man. You got to show these people who you really are. You got to go play tennis or whatever the hell you're even doing.
Yeah, but dude, look what happened to Will Smith, right? Will Smith, in my eyes, has become bigger in the last 3 months than he had in the last 10 years, right?
That's going to start a thing.
Yeah, I think so,
because it went so long of like, man, why do these influencers can't be here to stay. This must be a joke. This must be a joke. Oh shit, this isn't a joke. Yep. And so what happens is now all of a sudden this weird girl who makes videos with her dog on YouTube has more ability to get you to click and buy a product than Will Smith does. That's mind blowing. But once again, just like all these other lessons, it's just true. Get over it, right? So the good thing is, yes, all these superstars can go create that content, and then Will Smith is going to win because he's still Will Smith.
Yeah, so
and you connect to him. Now that's a double-double. That's something that, an influencer can't quite keep up with. But the reality is, all the gatekeepers are dead. It's over. It's straight from person to product. And whether that product is a person, an athlete, an actual product, that's how it is. And authenticity wins. Yes, there are people that are lying and that are paying a lot of money to market themselves and that are blowing up and working that are inauthentic. But that's not the rule. That's the exception. The only constant is that authenticity wins, connection wins more than ever, and faking it doesn't work. I mean, there's an outrage going on right now, because I spoke about them earlier, with the Victoria's Secret Angels. The Victoria's Secret Angels were the greatest branding move ever, marketing move ever in the history of anything clothing.
Yeah.
People are over it because they're too hot. It's ridiculous. They're too slutty, hot, sexy. It's not real. And who's winning is like these companies that are doing female empowerment things. And in their photo shoots, the girls have stretch marks, and they're giving back to charities, and people want to know who they're buying from. You can't fake it anymore. People know you're not perfect anymore.
And that's such a good thing, man. You go back and you watch like I just watched the first episodes of Entourage not too long ago, and it was like you had to be a real, and good for, that change happening publicly. Like you can be more authentic, be more accepted with how you actually are. I love it.
I think that's too just the new generation, man. It's like you have to have a purpose or a cause, or be like doing something for a bigger reason other than let's get rich.
I just want to get rich and act like, the old way of branding was like, let's get rich and how can we position ourselves as this? Or like, how can we appear? Like all those old words are dying. It's like, how do you connect? In my opinion, if any business that doesn't have a CEO or founder that's out front saying what they believe in is in trouble. And I think anyone starting a company that doesn't plan on getting out in front and saying what they believe in is in trouble.
So let's plug your podcast and talk about your podcast for a second.
Yep.
I noticed that you connected with Lewis House. He's from Ohio. Do you know him from before, or is that just recent?
It was recent. I met him through the podcast game. I think even Rob might have done his podcast. I don't know. It's funny the way the podcast world works, and you guys will see this, and I encourage you to get in with all the podcasters. Right. They pass the guests around, and they all mingle.
Oh, right.
So it's a thing, right? And one thing that I've learned also for all you podcasters out there is there's no better guest for your podcast than somebody who's already big in podcasting, because their fans already have podcasts on their phone ready to go.
Yeah.
A lot of people that you try to turn into podcast listeners don't even know what that weird purple app is on their phone.
Sure.
And you got to get them to do it, and that's really hard. So I met him through that circle, and then he came on and did the pod, and then we're both from Ohio, and he's just a great dude.
And how do you get most of your guests on your show?
The vast majority is people I know, or blindly reaching out and just texting people. I've DM'd a couple people and just hitting people up blindly. And I've been really fortunate. I've had a lot of relationships over the years, and also a lot of people have done me favors. Then a lot of people that come on, I would say 25% of the people that have come on have referred a friend or somebody else that would be good. And then there's been a few that just reached out and said, hey, I'd love to do it if you'll have me.
Plug a couple of your favorite episodes if people are to go check it out. Which ones should they watch?
Favorite episodes are Jeff Curl, who created Stance Socks, because he's an adult and he's just a genius. He's just like, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm cool. But when you talk to him, you're like, oh shit. This is the guy I would ask for advice. You know what I mean? He did this on purpose, really smart.
He's a sharp.
He knows exactly what he's doing and how he did it. And he also is really good at communicating. My friend Kevion, which you guys should think about having him on here because he just crushes it. He was, Jonas's best friend from LRG.
That's why that sounds familiar.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was Jonas's guy at LRG. Now he's a real estate agent. He sold Nick Diamond his houses and stuff.
Yeah.
His thing is from skate to real estate. That's his tagline.
Yeah.
But he's just a really cool dude, and he's technically a real estate agent, but he also uses his real estate practice as a sort of a motivation thing. And he's just he's the epitome of a guy who grew up skating and knows all the skater stuff that we do, but also has transferred. He's like the skater Tony Robbins and
cool.
and all the affirmations and all the everything. But he was great. We became really good friends after that, and he really resonated, man. He got more listens than most of the people that I've had on he got more listens than Kyrie Irving. And he's not famous, he's but he just connected really well.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I would say probably Kyrie Irving, just because he's probably the biggest superstar that's agreed to just come on and do it without any hesitation. And he was real open, and he was just real cool about it. And it was a good one.
Yeah. Right. And what's the game plan moving forward with the social media? The whole drama brand, where's it going?
Yeah, so the whole thing is just really scaling my connection. Everything we just talked about, right? We all know that you got to be as authentic as possible, and you got to connect as much as possible. And sometimes that feels weird. We were talking about you commenting on every picture, on everyone's pictures. I'm sure sometimes that feels a little weird to you. It's real life. It's what you have to do. It's the new version of showing up to the event that you have to show up to. You got to be there. You got to be interacting. You got to show them you're there. You got to whatever. So I think that continuing, it's how I saw how much the podcast did for me. It did a lot for me, because even though I know I'm this person, I've always been this person beneath everything. I haven't put out a lot of content as this person. And so once I started doing it, people start to react and people start to congratulate you and have different conversations, and people like Mikey will call you and say, good job. And then you're like, oh shit, like I just need to do more of this. So the trick is, how do you do the most possible amount of content without being a cornball and without looking like a, attention hungry Instagram model that's looking for a tea deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to push that. I'm going to do as much as I can. And that I still have people saying, good job. And it's all going to be me just going through it. I'm not going to cool guy you and tell you to get off the couch. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing. And hopefully that'll make you want to do it too.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it.
Love the approach, man. And we actually, in our last podcast, someone brought up your podcast, and everyone has good things to say. So
That's
thanks
so
for
cool.
coming on, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. I will say this before we close. It was really interesting watching you from the person that was getting thrown in the pool to when you were doing deals.
Yeah.
When you talked about doing that deal with PacSun,
that
was a pretty big transition. That was like, what, a 5-year period?
Yeah.
You just observed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Started negotiating your own deals.
I've done a bunch. And you just, you get your ass handed to you. Like, I've had some embarrassing moments, you know what I mean? But when you have to keep in mind, when I'm getting thrown in a pool, I'm getting thrown in a pool because I hope that one day that will lead me to be able to be doing deals with PacSun. So I'm doing it with an intention, but it's just, I've looked like an idiot on MTV, and I've also looked like an idiot in a lot of business meetings, but that's how you learn. And that's how you got to, that's why I'm here talking to you guys.
All right, Drama. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was incredible.
All right, Drama, thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir.
And we like to thank Tommy Paz back there for working with the cameras. Thank you, Tommy.
Tommy.
And if you want to check out more episodes, go to avniintelligence.com. And don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes. Drama, great interview.
Thank you, guys.
And we're going to wrap it there. Thanks for coming on, man.
And don't forget to leave us reviews.
And don't forget to leave us reviews. We
really
greatly appreciate those. They help us grow. Much appreciated. We're out.